Okay, quick RX8 update. I pulled the fenders off it. It's the only thing I've done since the last video. My front panel showed up. I'll show you guys that. And basically the next step in this process is to go ahead and start drilling out the spot welds and using the finger sander to grind back the ones that on the pieces that we don't care about. And what I mean by that, I'll show you guys. So, like the front panel, let me show you the front panel first. So here's our new front panel, right? And it, like for example, it doesn't have the latch piece here, right? That's a separate piece that you buy and weld on. Well, I don't need to buy it because mine's good. But in order to take this off, we're going to drill through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spot welds. And we're going to drill them so that we have a hole in this piece that we can then take this piece, set it on here, and weld it on. So if you were to use the finger sander to get rid of these, you're going to destroy this bracket. There won't be really much left. So this is an example of where you'd want to use a drill, and we can drill right through it because this front panel that it's welded to, we're throwing it away. So we don't really care if we put holes in it, right? And even better still, we can use this as a template to weld this onto the new one because it'll have holes in it, and we can just use those as marks, right? So kind of forward thinking a little bit. You kind of want to think about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what you're going to need to reuse, and what you're going to need to, you know, put pieces back on to make sure that they're in the exact same spot, right? The flip side of that is, like, if you look at this inner fender, okay, we're going to replace this inner fender, this whole piece right here, and that's going to be replaced with this. So this inner fender, if you look at how it comes around here, it's sitting on top. This is the inner fender comes on top and rolls up, and this is spot welded here. But you don't want to drill these, because if you were to drill all of those out, you'd end up putting a hole on this piece, right? And we're not replacing this piece. So we don't want to put a hole through it, because then when we go to put our new panel back in, we'd have a hole and there'd be nothing to weld to. So what you want to do in this situation is grab a finger sander and just grind this metal away, but leave what's underneath it. Leave this piece of metal alone. So hopefully that makes sense. I hope I'm doing a good job explaining that. You want to think about what you're doing. Don't just go in there with a drill and start drilling out spot welds, because you could get in trouble. I do have a tool. Let me get that and I'll show it to you. You know, if you do screw up or whatever, there is a way to fix it. Here it is right here. It sits on my welder. It's got a pretty strong magnet on it. But what you can do with this, and you can see I've used it before many times, right? And I'll show you guys how this works. So let's say, maybe I'll look at it. I'm not sure if part number, here you go. So it's made by Vim Tools. There's the part number, so you can Google that. So, like for example, let's say I drilled this spot weld all the way through, and I had a hole here and I had a hole in the piece that I was trying to weld. So you can't weld air, right? There's a few things you can do. You can build up the weld around the edges, but it always looks ugly. But you can take this tool and put it up underneath, or do it this way and weld. You can weld from underneath. So you basically put this on. I'll show you, and it's got this magnet on it. All right, so you put this on. This is a copper backing, right? And see how it lifts? You basically just wind this out until it gets tight. So you can see now there's no room. You can't. You know, the whole magnet comes up if you're lifting it up. So now what you can do. So if you had a situation where there was a hole through both pieces, now what you can do is come underneath and just fire a bead of weld into that, just as if there was metal there. And this copper piece will act like metal, and then it'll puddle up and it'll be a good strong spot weld. So if you do mess up, don't worry about it. There is a way to fix it. And so this is a real handy tool to have. Oh, it's got awful strong magnet on it. But yeah, ideally you wouldn't want to do that. Like you wouldn't want to have to do it. Just, you know, plan ahead, think about what you're doing, think about what you want to drill out versus what you want to grind away. And that way you should be able to slide your new pieces in without having to use that tool. And that's just the right way to do it, I guess. Okay, so let's get started. Fenders are off. I'm going to start drilling things out. I got to get my finger sander out, and we're going to start grinding stuff off. I'm going to pull the front panel off, and we're going to pull that inner fender out and start prepping stuff to put our new one in. I might do this in a couple of parts because it could get like a long video. So here we go. All right, I just spent like 5 minutes just kind of eyeballing like, all the little spot welds, figuring out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to drill versus where I wanted just to sand the piece away. I got it all figured out in my mind, but I did find four spot welds that I'm going to need to use that tool on, because there's no way I can get to them, because the piece of metal, like the inner fender, is sandwiched between two other pieces, which I don't want to damage. So I'm going to end up having 4 spot welds where I've drilled all the way through and having to use that tool to, you know, build them back up, which is what that tool's for. Ain't no big deal. You just want to minimize that. I'll show you guys what that looks like. So if you look, so your inner fender is coming up, rolling up around here, and you've got a spot weld here, which is from this support piece to the inner fender. No big deal, drill it out. Same here, drill it out, drill it out. But when you get to this one, if you come around and look underneath, you'll see it's welded. This is another structural piece underneath, right? And this is our inner panel that we're replacing. And then you've got a third piece of metal here. So that spot weld goes 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 pieces of metal. This is this top piece, right? So there's no way to get to just the centerpiece. Now what I'm going to try and do before I drill it is I'm going to take all the other spot welds out, get it kind of ready. It is seam sealed in there as well. So they've put seam sealer on it. And it's, yeah, they packed it in pretty good. So what I'm going to try and do is come in here with my, I'll show you. This is a spot weld buster tool. I just sharpened it up on the grinder because it was pretty beat up. Basically what you can do with this, you can hit it from this side, you can also hit it from this side. So you can come up, chisel in, and then it's got a cutter on that side, and chisel forward. Or I'll come in this way, and I'm going to try and cut them without having to drill them, basically, is what I'm saying there. It may or may not work. It depends how loosey-goosey I can get this inner fender. I'll try that. If it doesn't work, I don't care. We're going to drill 1, 2, 3, 4 spot welds out, and then we'll use that copper tool when we're putting our new piece in, and we'll just weld all 3 bits of metal back together. So that's the only 4 spot welds on this job that have the potential to be drilled all the way through and not be, I mean, they'll be fine. It's not ideal. That's it. Let's get cutting. Easy as pie. That was a fighter. That one was a fighter. I got to take these brackets off. This nut, this piece right here, so we're not done with this guy. Not by a long shot. I think that's enough for today. This thing was a fighter. All right, quick wrap up from you know, I was out here about 3 hours today. This thing was a bit of a fighter, so you know, it took a little longer than it should have. It fought me a lot. It fought me up in that one corner where the inner fender gets sandwiched between the strut tower and that top apron there. It was fighting me for a while, but we won. Front panel's off. You probably saw it in the video. Inner fender side. It's motherfucking beer time. Shout out to Jerry. Bullshit corner. So yeah, next steps, you know, prepping the metal, getting everything ready, getting the parts ready, marking where all the wells need to go, you know, cleaning them up, put well through primer on them, you know, all the usual shit you gotta do. I think I have a tube of seam sealer over there, but it's been sitting there a while, so I might go get another tube of seam sealer. And I need E-coat for the new parts. This one looks like it's got like a grayish color, so I'll have to go find that. I don't have that color. My paint, I think, is going to be ready tomorrow morning, so I'll pick that up. The blue paint. What else? That's it. I mean, a little bit of metal prep here. Prep some new parts, and then we're going back together. You know, paint. You know, further back together. I still have to plastic weld all these freaking clips on these fucking fenders. Oh, it's still pissing me off that happened. Yeah, that's it. Part 3. This will be part 3. I've got 9 days straight off work. So, you know, 2 weekends and a full week off work. I'm way ahead of schedule. Yeah, I only picked this car up less than 2 weeks ago. It'll be 2 weeks on Tuesday. And we're getting ready to, you know, start putting it back together. I wasn't planning on going so fast on this car. The Mazda parts were really cheap, so I just bought them new instead of, you know, searching for used. For the most part, I do have some used parts coming. So yeah, that's it. End of part 3. Stay tuned for part 4. We'll be doing metal prep and you know, getting things put back together and you know, welding everything and lots of aligning and stuff before you weld it all together. You know, we gotta kind of set it up, put the headlights in it, put the bumper on it, make sure all the gaps are good. Take it all back apart, finish weld it, paint it, seam seal it, put it all back together again, and yeah, that's kind of the process there. So yeah, end of part 3. Cheers.